Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of the self. In a world that constantly tells you who to be, how often do you ask yourself, who am I really? Beneath the surface of roles, responsibilities and masks lies a deeper truth, the architecture of your psyche. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, opened the door to a new understanding of the self. Through his theory of personality types, he did not just categorize us, he gave us a mirror to see our essence. Today, I invite you to journey inward, not to become something new, but to remember who you already are. Here are 5 keynotes to guide you into the truth of your personality, not as a label, but as a liberation. Where does your energy come from? This is not just a psychological inquiry, it is a spiritual one. Carl Jung believed that the direction in which your psychic energy flows is one of the most fundamental aspects of who you are. It determines how you engage with life, how you connect with others, and how you experience the world around you. Some people are naturally extroverts. Their energy flows outward, toward the external world, toward people, movement, activity, and expression. They find renewal in the buzz of conversation, the rhythm of social interaction, the thrill of action. To the extrovert, life is something to be tasted, touched, lived out loud. They are drawn to what is visible and tangible, thriving on the exchange of energy with the outside world. For them, solitude can feel like exile. It is in the company of others, in shared laughter or collaboration, that they rediscover themselves. But there are others, those whose vitality is drawn from a different source. These are the introverts. Their energy flows inward, toward the inner world of thought, reflection, imagination, and depth. For the introvert, silence is not empty, it is sacred. It is in solitude that they gather strength, clarity, and truth. They may walk through a noisy world, but they carry a deep internal sanctuary within them. It's not that they dislike people. Far from it. But constant outward interaction drains their reserves. To connect authentically, they must retreat and return to the well of their inner world. Jung did not believe that introversion or extraversion made one better, more intelligent, or more successful. These are not preferences. They are orientations of the soul. They are ways of being, deeply woven into the psyche. What he urged was self-awareness. When you know your natural orientation, you stop forcing yourself into roles that don't fit. You stop apologizing for needing space or for needing connection. You begin to flow with your nature rather than against it. And yet, Jung also taught that wholeness is found in balance. An introvert, while drawing power from solitude, must learn to step into the world with courage. An extrovert, while energized by the crowd, must not fear the quiet, must not run from their inner life, because hidden in our opposite lies a missing piece of the self. So ask yourself, not just what recharges you, but what restores you. Do you feel most alive after a long, deep conversation, or after time alone to reflect? Does your heart rise with the energy of a gathering, or does it find peace in the stillness of your own thoughts? There is no wrong answer, only your truth. To live in alignment with your type is to honor the very fabric of your being, and to stretch beyond it. Just a little, is to begin the journey toward completeness. That is the beginning of wisdom. That is the first truth of who you are. How do you perceive the world around you? Not just how you see with your eyes, but how you truly see. How you gather information, how you interpret reality, how you make sense of the endless flow of experience. According to Carl Jung, this perception, this doorway into reality, is one of the most profound elements of the human psyche, and it manifests in 2 distinct yet equally valuable forms: sensing and intuition. For some people, the world is understood through what is concrete, immediate, and tangible. These are the sensing types. They trust what they can observe with their 5 senses. They pay attention to detail, to what is actual and present. These individuals are grounded, realistic, and often practical. They notice the texture of life, the color of the sky, the tone of a voice, the temperature of a room. They are attuned to the physical world and often excel in tasks that require precision, observation, and a careful step-by-step approach. To them, facts matter more than theories. What exists now carries more weight than what could exist in the distant future. Sensing types are the builders, the doors, the guardians of the present moment. They see the world clearly because they see it as it is. Not as a dream, but as a reality to be touched and worked with. In their groundedness, there is wisdom. In their attention to the small, there is strength. But others perceive the world quite differently. These are the intuitive types. Rather than relying solely on sensory data, they tune into patterns, meanings, possibilities. They do not merely see what is. They sense what might be. The intuitive person often has a foot in another realm, one that is symbolic, abstract, and future-oriented. They make connections quickly, sometimes leaping from a single detail to a sweeping conclusion. They are visionary, imaginative, and drawn to the invisible threads that tie ideas, people, and events together. To the sensing type, the intuitive may seem to be lost in thought, scattered, or even unrealistic. But in truth, the intuitive is simply navigating a different dimension, one filled with potential and emerging truths. They are the dreamers, the inventors, the philosophers who ask, what lies beneath this? What comes next? Jung believed that both ways of perceiving are necessary. One gives us clarity about where we are, the other gives us insight into where we might go. One roots us in the now, the other invites us into the future. But here is where the real power lies when you understand your natural perception. Whether you lead with sensing or intuition, you gain the ability to trust yourself. If you are a sensor, you no longer feel pressure to chase abstract visions that don't resonate. You learn to value your realism, your ability to notice and respond to what is actually happening. If you are intuitive, you stop apologizing for your big picture thinking, your capacity to see connections others might miss. And yet, Jung challenges us not to become stuck in our dominant function. The sensing type can benefit from sometimes lifting their eyes from the present detail to imagine new horizons. The intuitive can grow by grounding their ideas in the reality of the now, by making the dream tangible. This is the path of individuation, the integration of all ways of seeing, feeling, and knowing. But it begins by honoring your natural perception, recognizing that you are not broken or strange for how you experience the world. You are wired to perceive reality in a way that is deeply personal and profoundly meaningful. So ask yourself, do you see what is, or do you see what could be? Do you trust the solid ground beneath your feet, or are you always scanning the horizon for what's coming? Whatever your answer, let it be a celebration, not a judgment. Because in knowing how you see the world, you begin to understand why you move through it the way you do. And in that understanding is freedom. How do you make decisions when life presents you with complexity, with challenge, with choice? When emotion and reason stand by side, which voice do you listen to first? Carl Jung believed that one of the most defining characteristics of a person's psyche is the way they evaluate and judge the world. And he called this the rational function. It comes in two forms: thinking and feeling. These are not about intelligence versus emotion, as they are so often misunderstood. They are two distinct forms of intelligence, two ways the psyche organizes truth, meaning, and value. Some people are thinking types. Their compass is logic, clarity, and objectivity. When faced with a decision, they ask, is this true? Does this make sense? They strive for consistency, order, and structure in thought. Thinking types have a natural gift for stepping back from a situation to evaluate it from a distance, free from emotional distortion. They value justice over sentiment, truth over comfort, and principles over personal preferences. These individuals excel in environments that demand rational analysis, science, strategy, debate, problem solving. They often carry a quiet strength, the ability to remain calm under pressure, and the courage to say what is necessary, even when it is unpopular. To them, emotion is not the enemy, but it must be filtered, tested, and understood before it takes part in decision-making. But there is another path, equally noble, equally powerful, and that is the path of the feeling type. Feeling types make decisions based on values, empathy, and human connection. They ask, is this right? Is this kind? How will this affect others? Where the thinker seeks truth, the feeler seeks meaning. Where the thinker sees the system, the feeler sees the soul. Feeling types are deeply attuned to the emotional undercurrents of life. They sense harmony, discord, joy, pain. They are often the peacemakers, the counselors, the listeners who bring warmth and conscience to the human experience. They weigh decisions not in terms of abstract logic but in terms of human values. They consider relationships, ethics, emotional well-being. They don't avoid reason, but they believe that without heart, reason becomes cold. And they are right. Now, Jung emphasized that both thinking and feeling are rational. Both are ways of organizing life. The difference lies in what is prioritized. Neither is superior. The thinker is not more intelligent. The feeler is not more compassionate. They are simply oriented differently. But here's where many people become lost. Society often values one function over the other. In certain cultures or professions, thinking is elevated, rewarded, praised, modeled as the right way. In others, feeling is the ideal, seen as more moral, more human, more in touch. The truth, Jung insisted, is that we each have a dominant function, a preferred path. But our growth requires us to honor and integrate the opposite as well. So if you are a thinking type, remember your clarity is a gift. Your mind can solve puzzles, create systems, and speak truth where others cannot. But also know this: feeling is not weakness. It is not illogical to care. Don't let your strength in thinking become a shield against the beauty of vulnerability. And if you are a feeling type, know that your empathy is sacred. You see what others miss, the emotional lives behind every choice, every interaction. But do not let your care for others silence your own voice, or stop you from standing in truth when necessary. Reason and feeling are not enemies. They are partners in the fully developed human soul. Carl Jung believed that to walk the path of individuation, to become whole, we must bring balance to our inner compass. That means learning to think and to feel, to value truth and meaning, to hold logic and love in the same breath. So ask yourself when you face a decision, what comes first? Logic or value? Objective analysis or emotional resonance? Whichever path you walk, walk it consciously. And then, stretch. Challenge yourself to listen to the other voice. Not because it is better, but because it completes you. For within your decisions lies your destiny. And when your head and your heart finally speak the same language, you will find not only clarity, but peace. Each of us is a unique combination of energies, functions, and perspectives. But Carl Jung, in his profound study of the psyche, noticed recurring patterns. When he combined the two directions of energy, introversion and extraversion, with the ways we perceive sensing and intuition, and evaluate thinking and feeling, he uncovered 4 essential psychological temperaments, or what we might call the root types of human personality. These are not static labels, but living portraits of the soul in motion. And understanding them is like being handed a mirror that reflects your inner landscape more clearly than ever before. The first of these types is the thinking extrovert. These individuals are oriented toward the outer world, but they navigate it through the lens of logic, reason, and structure. They are planners, organizers, builders of systems. People who thrive when ideas can be translated into action. They seek to bring clarity and order to the world, often using rules, laws, or carefully thought out principles. The thinking extrovert often excels in leadership roles, business strategy, and science. They are pragmatic and decisive, with a strong need to understand how things work. But for all their competence, they can sometimes struggle to understand or express their own emotional world, or to grasp the emotional needs of others. Their growth lies in learning to balance their sharp intellect with empathy and internal reflection. Then we have the feeling introvert. Perhaps the most misunderstood of all. These individuals live in the quiet realms of inner emotion and value. They do not wear their hearts on their sleeves, but their feelings run deep. Deep as rivers that have carved through stone. They may appear reserved or even aloof, but within them is a profound moral compass, a sensitivity to beauty, ethics, and the suffering of others. They are often artists, poets, counselors, or quiet idealists. They do not impose their values outwardly. Instead, they live by them silently, often retreating into themselves when the outer world feels too loud, too harsh. Their challenge is to bring their inner richness into contact with others, to find the courage to express what they feel, and to share their light with a world that desperately needs it. The third type is the intuitive extrovert. These are the visionaries, the forward thinkers, the innovators, the dreamers who cannot sit still because the next idea is always calling. They live for possibility, for inspiration, for new paths to explore. Often charismatic, expressive, and full of energy, intuitive extroverts see potential where others see limits. They are entrepreneurs, inventors, futurists, often inspiring movements or creating revolutions in thought or technology. Yet, their downfall can come when they chase novelty without depth, when they leap from one vision to the next without grounding their ideas in reality. For them, growth lies in stillness, in learning to slow down, to reflect, and to follow through on the sparks they ignite. Finally, there is the sensing introvert, the quiet guardian of the present moment. These individuals are deeply in tune with their surroundings, not through imagination, but through immediate experience. They notice what others overlook: the small details, the subtle changes, the tangible world around them. They often prefer calm environments and steady routines, drawing comfort from familiarity and structure. You'll find them behind the scenes. Stable, consistent, reliable. They are often the record keepers, the craft people, the caretakers of tradition. But their inward focus can also make them hesitant to adapt or express their needs. Their path to growth is to open themselves to new experiences and ideas. To trust that stepping outside their comfort zone will not dissolve their peace, but deepen it. Each of these 4 temperaments offers a glimpse into the diverse architecture of the human psyche. Jung did not present them to box us in, but to liberate us. To help us see that we each have a natural orientation, a dominant rhythm, a preferred lens through which we view life. And in knowing our temperament, we can begin to understand our strengths, our blind spots, and our calling. But this knowledge is only the beginning. Jung believed that while we may start life in one type, our task is not to stay there. The true goal is individuation, the integration of all the functions, all the energies, into a balanced and complete self. That means the feeling introvert must learn to act in the world, to assert their truth. The thinking extrovert must pause to feel, to soften their judgment with compassion. The intuitive extrovert must find roots. The sensing introvert must dare to dream. When we recognize ourselves in one of these temperaments, we gain more than self-understanding, we gain self-direction. We are no longer lost in comparison or confusion. We stop asking, "Why am I not like them?" and start asking, "How can I become more of who I truly am, and who I am meant to be?" The dynamic self is not a finished product. It is a lifelong journey, but with this map, these 4 temperaments unveiled, we take our first step on that journey with eyes wide open. And that, Jung would say, is the beginning of becoming whole. At the heart of Carl Jung's work lies a single, powerful idea: that the purpose of life is not perfection, not achievement, not even happiness in the conventional sense. The purpose of life is wholeness, and the path to that wholeness is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming your true self. But what is the self? Not just the face you wear for the world, not the personality shaped by culture, expectation, or family. The self, in Jung's vision, is the totality of who you are. Conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, rational and emotional, grounded and visionary. It is the blueprint of your soul. It is who you were meant to become before the world told you who you should be. Individuation is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more deeply, more truthfully yourself. It is not self-improvement in the modern sense. It is self-reclamation. It is a return not to the past, but to your inner core, your most essential nature. And this journey begins with awareness, the ability to see the different parts of your psyche, to know which ones dominate and which ones lie hidden. When you understand, for example, that you are an introverted intuitive who leads with feeling, you can begin to see how that shapes your relationships, your dreams, your wounds. You start to notice what draws you and what repels you, not out of judgment, but out of curiosity and compassion. But individuation also requires confrontation. You must face the aspects of yourself you've denied, rejected, or repressed. Jung called this the shadow, the dark mirror that holds of all view the ego cannot accept. It may contain anger, jealousy, fear, selfishness, or even brilliance, power, and beauty that you've disowned because they didn't fit the mold you were given. To individuate, you must turn toward the shadow. Not to indulge it, but to integrate it. You must meet the unknown within yourself and make peace with it. This is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and often suffering. But the reward is authenticity. The reward is inner freedom. As you continue, you begin to encounter deeper symbols and archetypes. The anima and animus, the inner man and woman, the child, the wise old sage. You begin to realize that your life is not random. It is a myth unfolding. Your dreams, your conflicts, your yearnings, they are messages from the self, guiding you, urging you to remember who you are. Individuation is also about balance. It means developing the parts of you that are weak or neglected. If you are a thinker, it means learning to feel. If you are an extrovert, it means cultivating solitude. It means becoming more whole by embracing the tension of opposites within you. You are not just light or darkness. You are both. And wholeness comes not from choosing one over the other, but by holding both with reverence. This journey never truly ends. Jung believed that individuation continues throughout life, not as a destination but as a deepening spiral, a continuous unfolding. Every relationship, every crisis, every transformation is part of this sacred path. Even aging and death are not the end, but the final chapters of the great story of becoming. And here's the most radical part of Jung's vision: when you become yourself, truly and fully, you also become more connected to the whole of humanity. Individuation is not selfish. On the contrary, it is the most responsible, the most loving thing you can do. Because the world does not need more copies, it needs you. Fully alive, fully present, fully yourself. When you live from the self, you no longer act out of fear or ego. You act from depth, from integrity. You don't just survive. You create, you heal, you radiate. You stop trying to fit in and begin to belong. To yourself, to others, to life itself. So ask yourself, who am I beneath the masks? What parts of me have I exiled? What does my soul long to become? To walk the path of individuation is to take your place in the great dance of life, not as a copy of someone else, but as a true original. And in that moment of awakening, you will not only find yourself, you will find meaning. You will find purpose. You will find home. The truth about who you are isn't a secret written in the stars. It's etched deep in your soul. Jung's 4 personality types are not categories. They are keys. Keys to unlock the mystery within. Don't just study your type. Live it. Embrace it. Then transcend it. Because beyond every label is you, evolving, and entirely unique. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Carl Jung. So look, search, and above all, become. The journey is yours. Begin it.